I joined because I just love being in a team where everybody kind of has the same likes and differences, because we all kind of are nerdy and like to game and have fun.
I believe in STEM. I think it's great for kids. It's hands-on. It teaches them how to problem solve.
I want to be a robotics engineer when I grow up, and I feel like this will give me a good thing to put on my college application, and B, will give me a good jump start on programming and building robots.
We've all been there. That moment of panic when you realize you've left your charger somewhere. But where? Is it in your hotel room, your rental car? Wherever it is, your battery is dying, and now you're stuck. But now you never have to worry about leaving your charger behind with the brand new Charger Leash. It's preset to ring as soon as you unplug your device. The alarm helps to remind you to unplug your cord and take it with you, ensuring you're never on the go without power. It's also a great anti-theft device that alerts you if someone else unplugs your phone at a public charging station, at an airport or a convention center. Never get stuck with a dead battery again. Charger Leash.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the 40th of Ladies of the Round Table Live. Tonight we have Shavasta Carmen. We have
Welcome
Kim.
back, guys.
We have lovely Pixie. And a very exciting special guest, Dr. Francesca Catalano. Dr. Francesca, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Can you tell us a little bit about your doctorate and, what you've accomplished in the last year?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a PhD in molecular biology / microbial genetics from Loyola University, Chicago. And I actually studied a spore former before spores were interesting in the popular media, and of course as a potential weapon of mass destruction. But at the time, there were like 5 people in the world who cared about spores, which was really sad. But but that was my background, and I loved bacteria, I loved genetics, and now what I do really is focus on encouraging and supporting women in STEM. It's really a passion of mine, and I've developed a group called WSTEM, and we hope to just do that, to work with young girls, university-age women, and then professional women to keep them in STEM.
Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate your efforts, and hopefully we'll help shine a light on your STEM foundation. And you are an affiliate with Ladies of the Round Table, which is awesome. We're glad to have you, and we're proud to showcase everything that you're doing, because you've come a long way in the last year, and it's definitely a program that needs to be paid attention to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, is there any projects that you'd like to promote?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm hoping to do this year is a project in which we could have a STEM day with young girls. So the girls disconnect from math and science around grade 5, 6. So what I would love to do would be to develop either a weekend or a day during the summer where I can have 20 to 50 girls of that age come to an in-service where we can do some science together with some faculty or volunteers and just, get our hands dirty. Students learn best with active learning, particularly when they can do labs or get their hands dirty, jump into science. So that's one thing that we have in the hopper. Hopefully will come to fruition next year, or this year, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We are in the new year.
This is located in Illinois, correct?
No, actually, I work at American Public University System. We are an online university, and our home offices are in West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, hope to do it
East
there.
Coasters.
Yeah. Holla.
Holla.
East Coast.
So you know about that snow, right?
Oh, Yes.
Word that some of these people on the stream know nothing of unless it's on
I
TV.
I don't envy you. I don't.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
you need it at Christmas time, with the holiday season. Now
We
it's
get
when
it.
it gets old.
We get it every now and then, and it's good every now and then.
Right,
And
right.
it's not even
Beautiful
real snow.
day,
It's
though,
like
too.
teeny tiny blanket. So we're good.
It was a beautiful day, though, too. It was nice. It was not too windy today, and the snow was very light, and it actually was a really pretty day to have snow. So I kept my daughter home. We had a snow day, and it
How
was nice.
fun.
Yeah, it was a good day. But, does anyone have any questions for Francesca about her STEM foundation or, not to where she is?
I'm gonna let
Carmen?
Pixie go first.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to anyone who wants to be involved in your field?
I would say first off, I want to focus on younger girls, the fifth, sixth age range, to just do it, to just find a mentor and to find a role model. That is so important at that age, to find someone doing math or science or technology, engineering, whatever, that looks like you. And this goes for people of color as well as for women. So develop that relationship, someone who wants to mentor you and maybe show you the ropes. If it's a lab, have you be in the lab, or just be there to talk to you and to encourage you. So that's really, really important. I think that something we and me at my level, we have to give back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. What about you, Carmen? I know that you have a lot to say to Francesca. I know Carmen was super excited that you were coming on.
I'm super
Thank
excited.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
We are akin, obviously, with our missions in life.
Yes.
I have, and if you don't know, you're like the rest of the world haven't found out yet. I will sing the praises of my Minnie, as I call her, my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, because she is at 13 so self-aware and so full of confidence about the fact that she is a STEM or STEAM type of child, that she's miles ahead of where I was at her age at 13 with knowing the direction she wants to go with science and math.
Great.
Math was not my friend. Still, we're kind of distant cousins, but that's why they make calculators for people like me. So I want to know, at what point did you decide to go from, being a student, getting your degree, to and knew you were going into being a community leader? Because it's something that's not everybody can do and not everybody can take on their shoulders and ride that wave.
Right. Well, I feel that it's just so important to give back, to find something that you're passionate about and volunteer. This isn't the only thing I do volunteer. I do a lot of dog rescue work as well. Both of these things are near and dear to my heart. And I came from a single mom parent with 3 kids, high school education, first-gen American. So she was an amazing role model for me, just everything she accomplished. And I don't have kids, I don't think I will, and I wanted to find ways where I can be a role model, or I can inspire other people. So that's really was sort of the kernel of developing this group and doing outreach and things like this. And I'm just so happy that you all invited me here. This is awesome. So just wanted to say that.
We definitely think here, pretty concisely, and that parents have a very important role. It's as simple as that. But I don't think that there's enough emphasis on how the whole community really can play a role and influence the future generations that are coming up. I volunteer for a program called Artworks. And what Artworks does is I go into classrooms of 3rd graders and I teach them different parts of art history. And I show them architecture, and I show them interior design and painting, and the difference between stylized and the realism and impressionism. And especially because in New York, the majority of art funding has been cut from public schools. We no longer have it. And although that is not a STEM, it's very different from STEM.
It is a STEM now. It is a STEAM. So you want to make sure we are including it.
it's not computer, it's not sciences, and there's definitely plenty of women in arts. You
Well,
know, it's not like
let me
it's not
just
like
tell
we're hurting
you.
for women, but
Let me tell you
but it's
about a
still
lot of.
important.
It is
No,
very
it's
important.
it's my career path.
It
Believe me,
definitely.
I'm not saying
No, I'm
that
not
it's
saying you're not
important.
including it, but I'm saying that the way that things are rolling nowadays with adding the A into STEM to
Yeah.
create STEAM, you've
Yeah.
got a lot of other communities out there, you're just like Francesca's, just like ours,
Yeah.
that are pushing programs that are progressively towards girls. Sorry, guys out there, but towards women. And there are things like textiles, which is TECH styles, because they're rolling fashion design into technology. Because believe it or not, everything that we do, including being a colorist or drawing for a video game, all takes technology of some type. So you have to think of it in that way versus it not being, it's not just art. It is how we interpret that art with the tools that we're given.
Oh, this is so good. This leads in. This leads in so well. Okay. This leads in so well. I'm so excited. This is like the perfect segue. So, why do you feel that women aren't attracted to STEM, or why do you feel that more women don't become involved in STEM? Do you think it's that women see STEM and technology as something that a lot of them are not into, or do you think that some people don't understand that technology is a driving force of a lot of things now and that people discount that?
I think it's a multifaceted problem. I think it starts in grade schools where girls just get discouraged. Maybe they're not taught as there's some research that says that younger girls in grade schools aren't females aren't taught the way the men are, that they're sort of marginalized. Maybe they choose to marginalize themselves. I don't know what their rationale is. There's an issue there. There's also a major issue in retention. So women who have tracked and have professional degrees, like doctorates or post undergrad degrees, don't sustain in STEM. So you have to look at the quality of life, the choices they're making with families or partners, and those are the major issues that I see. So depending on where you're looking at the level, there's different problems.
That's interesting, really.
I would agree. I think that there's different problems based on the age range, because every set has a different way of viewing things, especially when you talk about the public school system and how kids are engaged or lack thereof at that certain age level. I know for our foundation, we talk about age level 6 to, 6 age level to about 17. It's very hard to pull back a child or a young adult from 17 that has no one to support them or show them the way that they could have possibly been engaged in STEM or STEAM. Because by then, they're like, who gives a crap about me? Now, you may be able to catch some of them on the fringe that, maybe innately have that great love for math and science and even technology, because technology is such a powerful thing in their life right now that you may be able to pull them back. But without having the fundamental support of the tech and the monetary support for, stuff like what you're doing, Francesca, and what we're doing, it's very difficult.
Right. Right. And if you come from a first gen family like I did, I was the first kid to go to college, we didn't have a lot of resources. You have to be creative, you have to be motivated, you have to have a parent or a teacher or a role model, someone really helping focus you and stoke your interest. And that's just something that has to happen at a young age.
There's definitely a need for more balance that I think public schools are overlooking now, too. There's definitely an overload. Like, my daughter has an art program in her school, but it's about literacy in art. So they're never really getting their hands dirty and learning to appreciate these things, just like, the fun part is normally what drives people in to learning anything. It's I would never have been interested in art history if I didn't first learn to paint and to mold clay and to make sculptures. And I doubt that a lot of people who get into programming would have been as interested in learning how to program a computer if they didn't find something interesting in technology. And there's definitely a divide between application and enticing the wonderment of a child You know,
Well,
I think that we.
I think educators are underpaid very heavily due to a lot of reasons. And I think part of it too is I think teachers get frustrated. I have never been good at
Well,
math
they're
or
cutting their
science.
funding, and
Always.
they're limiting what
Like,
they're allowed to teach them in general.
yeah,
It's not
well,
even,
and they're
you know,
limiting whether or not teachers are able to help students. Because they've made it so that teachers genuinely, like, you're not allowed to stay after school with students in a lot of cases. Like, and I was one of the kids, if I had a science or a math teacher that did that with me, like, things might have turned around. Like, I might have been into it. I might have, you know, gone into biology or chemistry. But I was so bad at math that those were things that I couldn't do, and my teacher would get frustrated with me during classes.
That was the same thing for me as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's a lot of issues on a lot of levels. And a lot of that can be mediated through having a mentor, like Francesca and Dr. Catalano was telling us. And I don't think it has to be a teacher necessarily, but I think that if you're going to be a teacher, that you need to be able to do that. Like, you need to be patient, and you need to, it's like social work. Social work, people in social work in general are extremely underpaid, but they are serving an underserved majority, and majority of us are going to need social services at some point in our lives, and it's just the reality. It's going to be an overburdened system no matter what happens, and people need to be passionate and they need to be patient, and that needs to drive us, the same way it would in any career field. But
I'm sorry. To your point earlier, you talked about getting your hands dirty as an artist, doing art. We call that inquiry-based learning or active learning, and it's so vital in the sciences. And I could see the same thing for the arts. In fact, the new next-gen standards are really pushing that. We develop
sciences
assessments.
are beautiful.
Oh yeah.
There's so much to be learned and to be to get into and to
explore,
to just entice their senses. And I think that it's written off, and I definitely love what you do, and I think that your mission is a beautiful one, and it needs to be. There needs to be a closing of this gap between giving children and giving any level of career, from this stuffy environment that they want to stick everybody into, and showing us that there can be a balance in life, and as Carmen says, work smarter, not harder. And
yeah, absolutely.
If you've taken a simple employment, test to get into Costco, you'd find that companies do not want that from you. And it is, it's not only discouraging and degrading, but it is inflating and fanning the fires of a huge underserved, underemployed job market and generations of people. And it can end with these kids. So I definitely think that this could be something great. We have Kim, do you have anything you want to add, or?
Yeah, of course.
Do you want to go into? Should we go into the hot topics soon?
As the baby of the table, I'm still working on my my bachelor's. I'm a mass comm major, but I originally didn't start out that way. I did music for a while, and I decided, I really want to do mass comm. I really want to reach out that way and get into coding later on as a master's. And so what I was wondering is, did you actually set out into your college career wanting to be a doctor of molecular science? And if so, or if not, can you kind of explain how you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually was always a biology major. I wanted to be a medical a doctor, so an MD. And then I had an opportunity to work with a scientist who was actually my mom's boss. So she was his secretary. And I went to his lab, and he was a really awesome scientist, a fairly famous person, Dr. Len Erickson. He's passed now. And I was in college, and I just was blown away about being in the lab. It was so much more of what I wanted to do. I wanted to ask questions about why and how things worked, and it just seemed my natural path. So I tracked into lab stuff and worked for a couple of years after undergrad in labs, and then went to grad school. And that was it.
Took that one person just to let you play in the mess, as we call it, because you get your hands dirty. Like like
Right.
Six said.
Right. Right.
I have to
It's
say
just
that
such a defining factor.
it
It
is.
really
yeah,
is.
totally.
And
No, it
it's
is.
just
I mean,
being ignored
no one,
by so many people.
no one I've ever met has literally said to me, "Oh, I love to code." If I would have never gotten the chance, to, you know, kind of sit down with somebody who already knew how to code and was a professional, I would have never learned that, you know, I have a talent for this and I really actually like to do it. It's not something that is dreary to me like most people would see it as. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I have
Yes.
to say that there's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if you don't try it, you won't know, and if
Of course.
you don't see someone doing it, you won't even know to try. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
question in chat, Kimmy.
So, Dalen asked earlier, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the future of STEM?
Ooh. Oh, wow. So just in general, the biggest challenge for the future of STEM, I think it is, oh gosh, I'm going to go on a soapbox here. I think it's I think it's the average American's understanding of science. It's just, in my opinion, it's scary. There's this basic fundamental disconnect about the principles and processes of science. So if the American public disconnects, then there goes funding and there goes support and understanding. And I can name multiple, like vaccinations come to mind, or evolution. These are major topics that have been politicized. So that's a big problem as a scientist, and I hope that we can turn that around somehow. I don't know how or when, but I'm hopeful.
I actually was listening
Well, and
to
I love
an
that
interview.
science is so controversial because, like, Louis Pasteur, um, I believe he's the guy that did the rabies vaccine, but like he hadn't even tested it before he tested it on a human. Like, dark but true facts. He hadn't really tested
We
it.
love you, Pixie.
And it
We
wasn't
do.
successful. So like it's super creepy and weird, and like science is
But
like
it's
that.
awesome.
Or the issues with
Yeah.
what is it? It's a radioactive chemical. But they used to use it in watches and toothpaste and stuff, and like people were getting like radiation poisoning, and their teeth were falling out and their hair were falling out, and it was just weird. And like it's amazing how far we've come thanks to science.
Yeah.
And thanks to
Right.
people who have, like, you know, this driving force, and they want to break things apart and put them back together and figure out the puzzle.
Right.
Because
You know what's
pretty much
amazing?
everything in the world is a puzzle.
What's amazing is how far we are going to go because of things like what Francesca's doing, the movement that we're doing with our company, the other smaller companies out there that are working together to actually put a spotlight on what we know is fundamentally wrong with this country in the educational system. If we work together, like I said, together, smarter, not harder, our voices will carry. And we need you guys here in chat, you guys in the community, to help us with that. We can't do this by ourselves. These kids that are out there looking for something to latch onto, instead of running the streets, working at Subway, and seeing how we struggle as adults, and all they need is those tools. You know what? I'm not preaching to you. I'm just saying that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Here.
The change that they're going to make. I can't stress it enough. These kids are our future, and we have a responsibility to them, whether they're gaming, whether they're coding, whether they're drawing, whether they're sculpting, to be able to show them that we support them and everything they do. And it takes a village. And I want to start right here in our gaming community, because those kids are going to be coming up making some fantastic games that I want to play. I want to break it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to go. Right?
This is a great spot to jump off from into the hot topics.
It is.
Because I think that we definitely covered a lot, and we can come back, and I'm sure that we are going to come back to some of the great work that was going on.
Before we do that, I want Kim to throw out that last questions, because that question is pertaining to Goldie Box, which is a company that I love, and we are going to have the founder of Goldie Box on our show come hell or high water before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the question is from Mandalink, and it says, do you feel that the newer trend of engineering type toys marketed towards little girls, Goldie Blocks, do more to help the cause or ultimately more to damage it by promoting an image that girls can do it if it's made for girls?
I don't see it that way. I think you have to do baby steps and go back to first principles and look at what they're trying to do and value it for that. And they're targeting a toy for a girl that traditionally hasn't been targeted for girls. So that's a great thing, and that's a wonderful thing. And that I've had friends with kids that love them, and I think it's been very positive. Now, maybe 10 years from now, it won't be positive. Maybe the message will have done its job, and these girls will be equally as interested in engineering as boys, and then it would be sort of gendered. But I think right now it's a good thing.
I definitely think that toys have always been geared towards preparing children for work. You know, girls
I'm not
had
laughing
their
because it's
baking
funny. I'm laughing
supplies
because
and
it's so true.
no,
Yeah.
It's
girls
true.
had the baking supplies and the sewing kits and the kitchens, and
The
boys had the
babies.
workbench and the
Trucks.
firefighter, yeah,
Mhm.
and the you know, if you go into dress up, girls dress up like princesses and boys dress up like police officers and firefighters and construction workers, and I don't think that that is bad. I just think that it's bad that we have come to a point where we have separated who belongs in which category. And I also think that it's bad when we stop somebody from doing one or the other. My daughter, you know, she grew up and she liked dinosaurs, and you know, she liked fire trucks, and then she changed, you know, and now she wants to be a fashion designer, and she likes princesses, and you know, she could like whatever she wants.
Right.
You know, I don't think it's negative that she likes the things that she likes, and I don't think it was negative when she liked things that were more traditionally for boys. And you know, people. I'm not saying that our commenter did, you know, but people who encourage that mindset of segregation within the job market, or trying to extend it and say that it could be negative for a kid to have it marketed towards them rather than another, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
You know,
Kids
I
are going
see
to play
things-
and kids are
Well,
going to
I
grow up.
think no matter what, when you go into any toy store, anywhere in the United States, you're going to see toys separated by gender. It's just a fact. There are the boy
Not
aisles,
always.
there are the girl aisles.
Well, what about the
I
stuffed
feel-
animal aisles and the, you know, the bikes and, you know, they're all
I
they're all
those
intermingled with each other.
those are a little different though. They're not like
But they're
just
not.
in
They're still
specific
toys.
I don't view a bike as a toy.
You have maybe now, maybe it's just New York. There are, you know, boy aisles and girl aisles to a point, but there's also aisles that are separated by company. And some companies like Matchbox just makes Matchbox cars. And, you know, Mattel makes all sorts of toys. So you'll have a bunch of different toys in a Mattel aisle. Or if you go by My Little Pony, all of their IP is going to be in one aisle right next to each other to be sold and separated. And
But
I think that that's definitely changing too. And I think that a lot of that too is just some things are more attractive in color. You know,
But
when
I
you're
think-
looking at things from a marketing
Yeah.
perspective,
I
you
think
pack
the
the
great
shelves and
thing
you
about
pop things.
specifically like marketing a toy for girls is that it guaranteed goes in a place where a girl is far more likely to be based on the design of a store.
That's
I
called
think that's
product
just
placement
smart
and marketing for a
and
company.
product placement. Yeah. And I think
Right.
that's a great thing.
I think it's a great thing when you talk about entrepreneurism and a company's growth, but it's not a great thing when you talk about our culture and the way we have become divided and not supporting the girls in our life. And I'm not saying that that's you people in the chat here, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't supporting the women in your life. And being a feminist does not negate a sexual orientation. You could be a man or a woman. But it does cause a problem when you have a family that is not understanding that basic concept. You do not have to choose when you step into that aisle, whether you're going left or whether you're going right. It is okay to choose either or both.
Well,
Right.
absolutely.
And go ahead,
And the nice-
Francesca.
No, I'm just gonna say here to both of what you said. You're being a supportive parent. You're letting your child explore and see what they want to play with at the moment, and that could change, right? That's so important. That's
It's
awesome.
honestly mostly influenced by television. Like if her, you know, it's like you know, her friends at school and what's popular on TV, you know, and it's cool that there are a lot of shows that are geared towards boys or girls, and she kind of likes any of them. Like she liked dinosaurs, so she liked dinosaur shows for a long time. But she probably liked dinosaurs because she liked this character named Kylan, and Kylan loved dinosaurs. It's parents need to understand too that the media that you allow your children to absorb is going to definitely affect them, and it's going to influence them.
Oh
And
yeah, of course. And there's a lot of
yeah,
media trends. I mean,
yeah,
we just went over it, a lot of that whole reinforcement of the marketing and
mhm,
this is a girl's toy and it goes in the girls section, the girls section of the store. I mean, it's sad that that's what we've come to, but that's how
yeah.
it is. And the only way that we can change that is to actually have men and women saying, look, we need to make a change and we need to go to
Yeah.
marketing places. And I understand that a lot of marketing isn't going to want to do it because it's not going to sell as well.
And with
But
things like YouTube and Amazon Prime and Netflix,
yeah.
there's no excuse for parents to not be active in what their children are watching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the nice
Yeah.
thing is, if you have two of the same toy and one is pink and one is blue, eventually you don't need two of the same. You
They
just
had
end
that
up
with, like,
having the one.
what was
It's
it,
just
the
I
top
mean,
boy?
it's
Yeah.
like
What
you're
was,
starting this blending by doing things like this.
Right.
wasn't there a talk boy or something like that? They made like a talk girl where it was in Home Alone or something. And I was so mad that I didn't have the girl version of it when I was a little kid. but I think that it's important to have variety. I just don't think that it necessarily has to be because of gender.
Right.
The 3DS has lots of colors, and they're not necessarily geared towards a boy or a girl, whereas the DSi, had those bright pinks, and the DS had these bright pinks, and they're always packaged with, like, Nintendogs. And, they're changing that a little bit, even with Nintendo, and I think that a lot of that is because they have marketed for girls. They have showed parents, and they've softened that generation gap and said that technology is for girls too. Look, we're making it for them, and now it's getting to a point where you don't have to have a girls section in a video game aisle.
Right.
And it was like that when I was a kid. And it's not. It's very different now.
We
And it's great.
when I was a kid, we had for the girls section of video game.
What?
One of our board members helped create this particular game, and it was one of the first girl games of its kind back in the day when and I'm not going to say floppy, okay, because I didn't have a floppy disk, but I did have a CD-ROM, and it was Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
Barbie was one of the first games, as well as what's her name? Nancy Drew. One of the first games we played, and one of the first girl heroine games that we played, because we didn't have any other games. We didn't have these games where we got to go hunt and fish or whatever it was that these other boy games were. I didn't even know there were boy games. I just knew that there was this Barbie game that I was allowed to play because my mom's like, you can have that.
Yeah.
And I went to my friend's house and they had an Atari. I was like, I want that. What is this amazing machine that's Centipede? I'm like, I'm just killing it
You're like,
here.
oh my gosh, that Barbie game. What the heck?
Yeah. The boys were like, we don't want to come to your house and play. You got Barbie,
We must be
Come
the same
on.
age, Carmen.
Yeah,
I remember that.
See, you remember? Yeah. So let's roll into hot topics, guys. What do you say, Paige?
Oh, definitely. Sorry, guys. I am not moderating all too well. Well, Pixie, do you want to kick off the hot topics with the terrorists?
Yeah. So, a lot of you guys may have heard, but the Charlie Hebdo offices were attacked in France by terrorists. Charlie Hebdo is a newspaper that runs satirical articles and cartoons. One of them being a Muhammad cartoon. So they were attacked by what is believed to be a militant Islamist group. And people are falling on two very different sides of this issue. There are a lot of people who say that it's free speech. For those of you who don't know, there's no ideology allowed in the Islamic religion. So you do not see physical visages of Muhammad, the prophet. So this is believed to be why the attack took place. And there are a lot of people who think that they were not practicing free speech and that the attack was kind of justified. And there are a lot of people who are falling down on the side of, free speech, and it may not be in good taste, but it's still protected. And so I thought it was kind of interesting.
America?
It's in France.
I don't know if they have freedom of speech in France.
No. So the difference is that when you talk about it in America, people are talking about whether or not it's covered and protected. Because it's art, it's free speech. And so there are a lot of people who are arguing over the two sides of the issue.
Because there were, probably a year back, there was a huge problem on Twitter where the French government wanted the identities of people who were making fun of Jewish people. They had a hashtag called One Good Jew or a Good Jew, and people were being anti-Semitic. And Twitter was refusing to give these people away because Twitter is an American company, and as far as they're concerned, freedom of speech is protected, and that kind of speech, which hate speech is not protected in America, and terroristic threats are not protected in America, and that is a huge debate. It's a huge hot button debate that could take us hours just to talk about between the two right now. But France and Great Britain and places in Europe generally do not have freedom of speech.
No,
and
they do have censorship.
They can go to jail for some of it. There's a woman who got banned from the train and went to jail for having, said something to Muslim passengers 2 years ago. There's a huge issue in Europe with that, and in comparison to America. And we definitely, in America, have a great system where we can fight for that ability to say what we want, even if it's an unpopular opinion. We have the right to our opinion.
The whole thing with the issue with Gamergate. So you guys, all you people that got into that and got sucked into that vacuum and really picked a side and went to town, you are so lucky to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Look what's happening in other countries. You would have went straight to jail, don't pass, go for some of those comments and some of the things that were going on. And there wouldn't have been an issue of DDoSing. You just would have been, poof, gone. So back to what we say.
Who want to get your information, like your Facebook and things along that line, there's a reason why it's against your terms of service to be sharing that with your companies. You are supposed to have a place in your time to be able to speak freely and to act freely within the law, within the confines of the law, not actually. But you have a right to be you and to say what you want, even if it's unpopular, as long as you're not hurting somebody or promoting the harm of another person or another group of people. So do not let people take that away from you. And these countries who do not have free speech, you need to figure out what you can do to be able to say whatever it is you want to say, because nobody is being hurt by you expressing free thought. And revolutions and so many protections that we have in our first world countries would not have happened if people were not speaking out, because those in power who are greedy and those in power who want to harm you are not going to give it up, and they are going to try to silence you. So it is definitely important that people like these cartoonists continue to fight a fight to say what they believe should be said and to take back their power. Because freedom of the press is so integral.
Kimmy, I think we got some good conversation going on in chat.
Yeah, we do. Dalen has another comment and says, "While I personally think that the cartoons would be offensive to any religion, I still stand by their right to publish them."
Woo! High five!
Yeah, I would
Dalen,
have to agree with Dalen. Being a mass comm major, I would have to agree. On an ethical level, I don't think that I don't agree with it. But it is. They do have a right to publish them. It's true.
Dalen, hit that follow button. Hit that follow button, buddy. If you haven't done it already, give it a click. We like that opinion.
Places like 4chan, too, have a huge population of people in Britain, for example. Yeah. A lot of their users are in these countries where free speech isn't protected. And I think that by making that kind of speech illegal to be shared publicly amongst themselves, they breed these places where people get together and make. I don't have a problem necessarily with 4chan, so I don't think that it's a terrorist group or anything like that. But there's definitely
you breed a place where people have pent up too long, and they then release everything at once.
Without accountability. Yeah.
You know, that whole idea of like kind of teasing people and getting under your skin, that happens when people cannot let loose. You know, sometimes you breed a person who just kind of wants to pick away at an oppressive structure. And not allowing freedom of speech is definitely an oppression.
Well, that's why this is such a huge issue, is because there are so many people who are like, no, like, they shouldn't have been allowed to print that. They shouldn't have been allowed to run that. That's horrible. That's so bad. And the thing is they're calling for, like, censorship on free speech in America. And if we allow censorship on free speech in America but even more so than we do now. I mean, there's hate speech, which is not protected under freedom of speech. And then there's, you know, using your right to freedom of speech to post, like, satirical comments and things of that nature. Oh, my God, I can't speak. And, like, the thing is eventually you get to this point where somebody posted about it and was like, you know, if you don't censor, you end up in, like, a 1984 world. And I'm sorry, but whoever you are and whoever posted that, you need to understand that 1984 is based off of censorship, not a lack of it. So please, like, check yourself before you start talking about my George Orwell.
Throw it down, Pixie. Just drop it and walk away.
Got right. It has been done.
All righty then.
1984 is hyper censorship. It's you being watched literally every day and night, every moment, day and night.
Well, the thing is you censor things like this, and then what do you go and censor next? You censor video games and art and television.
And then there are
at a
people
certain
who believe that we're being pacified with drugs and entertainment rather than being highly censored, and that comes after the pacification. As long as we're entertained, you know, they can get away with whatever they want, and that is something that is definitely a huge issue that's going on.
So what do you think, Francesca?
Well, I think that it's interesting when I think of Americans and this particular issue and this particular religion. I wonder if their thoughts would change if it were a different religion. You know, I'm just throwing that out there.
That has a lot to do with it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely have biases with religions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In America.
Ooh, there's some conversation.
Oh yeah, man, they've got paragraphs going in there.
Get it?
Oh yes.
Oh man, we've got some expletives and stuff too,
Somebody was
man.
saying that France is usually pretty good about letting people talk trash about other religions, but being pretty good and making it legal is very different. You know, making it legal to talk about things that are unpopular should be paramount, not letting it slide unless it's somebody that you want to knock out from under the table, which is what happens. You know, somebody becomes too popular with an unpopular opinion, and they will get locked up. And, you know, or even what happened the other day with somebody was saying, in my life, somebody was saying that the people who put the graffiti under the plane that said bye-bye, that they wouldn't get in trouble for a terroristic threat for that if somebody came forth and said it. But then again, like a couple of weeks ago, somebody got arrested in America for saying "give pigs wings," which was what the man who shot the cops wrote on Facebook somewhere. So terroristic threats and hate speech can get interpreted in any way here in America. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a country where, you know, saying something about somebody else's religion that isn't necessarily even inciting, you know, harm against them. It's just expressing an unpopular opinion about a dogma could get you thrown away is just unacceptable to me. And frankly, there's a lot of things that I like about Europe that would make me live there. And I won't unless there's free speech. And I won't.
You would not survive.
Free speech. But that's the point.
No, that's not a thriving place for six.
You know, there are places where you can you can go to college and you can get health care, and it's all included in your taxes. And, you know, there's great maternity benefits, and it's easier to raise a family.
Free, yeah.
But you can't say, you know, that you don't believe Muhammad existed. And, you know, you can't say something like that without getting in trouble. That is ridiculous. It's unacceptable. in my opinion, as an American, being raised to be able to say whatever I want. It's something I take advantage of. I
Obvious
love.
that you value that
Oh,
that in
so
your
much.
life and the rest of us, or else we wouldn't be having this show, right? Right? Because we all wouldn't be sitting here being able to say whatever we want.
Yeah.
Speaking of saying whatever I want,
right?
Has anybody followed the Batgirl makeover?
No, tell me about it.
No.
Batgirl got a makeover. She was given a new costume. I was not happy with it personally, but it had a huge. Yeah, I love Batgirl. Her costume.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say if you weren't happy with it, I need to see.
Gail Simone gave Batgirl a great origin for the New 52. I was following her very closely, and they switched it up when they switched out Gail. And I think she looks like a 14-year-old, personally, the new Batgirl. But whatever, people like that. So they also cut out a popular.
I'm looking at it now. If you haven't looked at the chat, Ian's gonna throw a link up so you guys can take a look at it.
Let me see this.
You guys can take a look, and I'm looking at it myself. Go ahead, Six. Continue on.
Well, Batgirl came in, and she had a character that she lived with who was transgender. Gail Simone wrote her in, and Barbara Gordon cared about this roommate, and she, revealed herself to this roommate. Her roommate revealed that she was transgender to her, and that was important to a lot of people who want to see LGBT representation in comic books. And I wrote an opinion piece, and I'll put it in the chat even, about Batwoman and Batgirl and how DC is kind of edging towards pushing boundaries, but trying to keep everybody happy by not really going over the edge with it. They take you right to the point, and then they'll pull it back.
Yeah, they can't just push you over, or else you're never gonna get on board.
Like there was a great writer who was writing Batwoman, and he wanted to have Batwoman get married, and they refused, and he walked. And the comic has tanked since he's walked, and for good reason. He was what breathed life into Batwoman. He's gone, and now the comic is getting canceled. And then all because they wouldn't allow a marriage. There's other characters there's a gay character on Earth 2 who's Green Lantern, and he's about to get engaged, or he gets engaged, and then his fiance dies. They bring you to the point where they're saying, oh, we're okay with this, but they don't really show what people want to see in these communities. Right. Mm-hmm. And with Batgirl was not a sexist comic. Batgirl was very well written. She was not scantily clad. She was not inappropriately drawn. And then they changed her costume. People are like, yay, she's not sexist anymore. It's like, you weren't reading Batgirl, were you? And, because she never was. Especially not with Gail Simone handling her. Mm-hmm. And they changed her up. And frankly, I find the comic to be the first comic, Asian schoolgirl ninjas in it with the new costume. Yeah. we went
there. Everybody's face. Yeah, that's a great screenshot. If anybody saved that screeny, please tweet it, because we all were like, "What? Oh man, the record skip."
Yeah, and I was like, "What?" Yeah,
repeat that.
You guys really didn't read Batgirl, because they've taken steps back, in my opinion, and in that regard, it could be great in other respects. I don't really like it. And then they had a debacle with another transgender character that they brought into this storyline now, who is different. And the people who were supporting this Batgirl change have definitely had a huge backlash, because they're writing out these great characters that can influence the community positively. What do you ladies think about that? If anything.
I mean, I love Gail. Gail's a friend of the show. We love her writing. We love everything she's done for.
Well, she's not writing this now.
She's not writing. Yeah. I know, but I'm saying we love everything that she's done for women in comics and women in general, and pushing pushing the envelope because she's so edgy in that fantastic way that only she can be. And she's allowed other women to come behind her and be able to do this as well. She's a trailblazer.
Women in Refrigerators, for those of you who don't know, which was a very controversial site of a list of women who were killed off to enhance a male story arc in comics.
Yes.
So just aside, for those of you who don't know, and then the industry said to Gail, well, then you do it better, and she did. So, back to you, Carmen. I'm sorry.
That's all right. The great insert, because a lot of people don't know, and if you don't, then Google it and check it out, because it's an epic story that we don't have time for.
She wasn't the only one involved in that,
right?
But she helmed it, and she came out on top from it, because if she leaves the comic now, people leave with her, and she has respect.
Yeah.
For diehard comic fans and new comic fans alike.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's incredible.
And my point was, this is the reason why people read what she writes. Just by that comment alone will tell you that she is not one to just crumble under the pressure of a male-dominant field. So again, we go back to what we started to talk about with Francesca. It has to take someone to stand up. It has to take someone to take the lead. And Gail has done this on more than one occasion. And if you haven't read anything that she's done, please go back and take a look. Even if you're not a comic book fan, just pick something up and just take a look. Because comics have changed and come a long way since when we were kids.
Well, to add on to this, I wanted to establish that base, because it was a mouthful, before I went into what the controversy is with Batgirl now.
Right, transgender, yeah.
The transgender person became a woman, became actually a man and a villain, and it turns out that they made him have some sort of a mental disorder, and they believe that this is enhancing stereotypes that people who are transgender are mentally ill, that they're not believing that they are necessarily assigned of sane mind a different gender at birth, and they want to be part of their proper gender that they identify with. They believe that this is enhancing stereotypes, that they're ill. And that's what this particular stereotype is, compounded with everything else that DC has been doing within this community. And it's hitting them very hard, and it should be. And as much as I believe that they should be able to write whatever they want, we as consumers have the right to not read or to boycott what we don't like, and to let them know that we don't like what they're doing. And then if people like it and there's a market for it, let it be sold, in my opinion. But I'm not okay with it, and a lot of people aren't, and a lot of people are with me, and DC is apologizing for this, and they need to, because it really smacked them, as it should have. What would you do if you read that? If you were a supporter of Batgirl and you read that?
It's the same issue we talked about before. Like Carmen said, it's about having role models and representation and diversity, and this is just another facet of it. So there's a great comment in your chat here about diversity, about that exact. We need people who know how to write more diverse characters in comics, games, movies, etc., instead of pushing them away. And that's just so well said. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Arcade Android is on point here, too. He was talking about how the problem is that people are so ignorant of their own behavior, they don't know what is insensitive. And, you know what? It's a problem. It's not a problem inside of comedy, but it's a problem inside of real life application. That people are insensitive, and they're insensitive in a way that they are unaware. It's not even. I think that that's even worse than when somebody is just kind of edgy or mean, when somebody just doesn't know that what they're doing. And if somebody's being insensitive and they're unaware, we should let them know, hey, that's not appropriate. Don't crucify them for it. But there's definitely an issue and a disconnect as things are changing. Times are very turbulent.
I think that's part of it too. I think that as much as times are changing, it is very hard to push a change without doing so in a way that the majority of people find socially acceptable or understandable. For instance, when HIV/AIDS was first discovered, it was called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency disorder. And that's because that was what was known about it. And was that ignorance as hell? Absolutely. But no one knew anything about it. And I think as times change, you slowly see this shift. And I think that that's what DC is trying to do without throwing everything into the pot at once. Because I think if you come in to DC and you go, you know, no, the transgender brain has been proven to be more biologically close to the gender with which they identify based on MRI scans and CAT scans and things of that nature, that a lot of people aren't going to understand that. So they're trying to do it in a way that is like socially normal without pushing people away, but also without bringing people into controversy, if that makes sense. Well, because no matter what, doing something like this is controversial, sadly. But I think they're trying to do it the best way that they know how, and it's, a lot of us disagree with it, and we think it's ignorance as hell.
Marvel has already done most of this, and without that backlash. You know, it's like, it's not like they're the only ones in the game. They're not. And, you know, especially if you include Vertigo and Image and Dark Horse, you know, and Vertigo is a subsidiary of DC. You know, there's a lot more edgy content out there. And it's not old, and it's not new. It's not, these concepts aren't new. And Marvel has
edgy content going to be as needed to be semi-mainstream and conform to the norm as
it isn't edgy anymore.
Like DC and Marvel are. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is if you look at other comics that are smaller, they're allowed to be a little edgier because of their reader base.
Marvel, that's at least with gay marriage, Marvel has had gay wedding. You know, don't get me wrong, they're normally secondary characters.
But homosexual people are far more understood than transgenders at this point in time. I mean, that's just that's a fact.
DC has had transgender people. They had a transgender character who was written in and was fun and was completely normal, and then their first hero kind of character ends up being a villain who's not actually transgender.
And is framed with you know, this is a mental illness that's causing all this. That's framing a negative connotation of that whole thing of being transgender and everything. I'm personally, I can never agree with that. I can't ever get behind that.
Yeah, I'm with Kim. And
are you sure that person was actually supposed to be transgender and not a cross-dresser?
The thing is, this is how people were reading it. This is how they reacted. And it's because the character was introduced as a man identifying as a woman, and then when you peel back their layers, you find out that this character is actually mentally ill and not actually transgender. So people were not happy. And they felt misled, and they were upset initially even that it was a villain. You know, the first transgender character comes in as a negative character, they felt. And, you know, it wasn't the first transgender character, but it was the first at this level. But I think that we should probably lighten the mood up a little bit here. And what do you have, Carmen, for us?
I just want to go back to let Kim catch up with the chat, because we got some conversation going on in chat and a couple of good things. So I want to engage there real quick before we move on.
So, Minerva said, if I read Batgirl, then I would not be stupid enough to let the actions of one person, whether they be LGBT or a different religion or ethnic background in a comic, make me think that everyone who shares likeness with them is the same. I would take into consideration that maybe what they did enhanced the comic, whether lots of more paragraphs are coming.
Well, the thing is,
I totally lost
this is a pattern with DC. This is not a one-time situation. This is a pattern, and it is problematic. So I agree in the sense of, if you're just reacting to this one scenario, perhaps I could see that being a bit of an overreaction. However, considering that this is new, that this is supposed to be breaking ground, and that this is a pattern with the way that they treat this community, who have plenty of avid comic readers, they should be represented, that they are having a problem with it, and they have a right to voice that problem. And DC is reacting, in my opinion, in the right way by apologizing and by trying to fix this.
Yeah.
Because you want to bring in this crowd because they're trying to bring in this brand new market that they think never existed, and now you're doing it by alienating them. That's not going to fly.
Do you think some of this could have to do with the writer's personal judgments and opinions? Because I definitely think it could and does.
I think that DC editorial is a crackpot, though, for a lot of things, so I don't think that it's necessarily the writers, because when the writers want to do positive things, they let them walk. And, that speaks volumes about the editorial. They wanted Batwoman to get married. Batwoman was a side comic. Batwoman was not a main Bat family stay. And it was practically independent with the way that it was being run since before the New 52 in Detective Comics. And they let that all go. That wonderful artist, J.H. Williams, the writer and his co-writer, and they let him walk, and they botched his storylines that he wanted to write, and which could have catapulted her, in his opinion, to something greater. And I believe it because he's very talented. I trust his word. And now they let this go. People were mad about that, so they replace it with something that can be viewed pretty clearly as negative. And that's, for some reason, that flies is okay to them. And that shows me a disconnect from the audience that they're trying to connect to. And
speaking of audience,
should be. Yes.
Speaking of audience, I think we got a lot of chat going on. Go ahead, Kim. Hit me with another one.
We do. And Channel also has a really good point, and they say, I think that offering, oh my gosh, every time I start to read people type, I think that offending people is almost always unavoidable. People can find something that bothers them, and that's true. I mean,
that is so true. You know how true it is? It's so true about my next topic. That's how true it is.
It is so true. I'm offended right now.
It's so true that's a segue
in there.
This is a big
It's so true. It's so true because my topic is about Ghost in the Shell. You know what? I really, really have to ask the fundamental question: do we need a Ghost in the Shell live action movie in our life? No. I'm gonna go by one by one. Pixie, what do you think? Do we need it?
No, please.
No, we don't need it. All right, so Francesca, do we need a Ghost in the Shell live action movie?
No.
No? All right. Kim, right to you.
No.
6. Do we need it?
Why is Scarlett Johansson cast?
Okay, that's my question. Back to the basic question. You just ruined my punchline. It's a yes or no, 6. It's a yes or no.
Wasn't she good in that movie? And then I go, oh, that was Charlize Theron. Scarlett Johansson's the one that does
No,
that.
Everybody in chat is like, no. That's a negative. All right, so you guys didn't know.
And I'm
you didn't know.
Nice.
You didn't know. You're living under a rock. You haven't heard it on the internet or saw it on the Twitter, or your Facebook feed. Yes, Scarlett Johansson has been cast in the Ghost in the Shell movie. And this movie is going to be made by who, Kim?
DreamWorks. Which is
to add insult to injury.
I literally could not contain myself this morning. I saw that and I was like, DreamWorks.
I have to say
Can we just make everybody look like Shrek and call it a day?
Right. There's two points of view. Sorry guys, my contacts are really itchy. There's 2 points of view on this for me. First of all, I understand that the studio has to make their money back on this if they're going to go for this endeavor, and they want to put somebody that's going to sell tickets. So who do they go to right now? Who's the hot actress that can actually do some stunts on her own? And people want to look at that. People want to look at that ass. You know what
She's
I'm saying?
also the most
Scarlett
actress in Hollywood.
You don't look at her face.
You don't. You really don't. I'm sorry.
You're like,
you don't.
Leather pants and that ass. I'm saying, guys.
That's not what I'm looking at. I don't look at her face.
I have a problem with Scarlett Johansson. I do have a problem, though, that I think she gets cast into roles and they kind of make her bland. And I think that she should be, and that she could be better than that. But whenever I think of like where she could be, I always get her confused with, once again, Charlize Theron. I think that every time there's a role with Scarlett Johansson in it, that they miscast Charlie. They should have put
So
Charlize
let's
Theron
go back
in
to
it.
the
It's okay
actual
because I can't tell
face.
the difference between Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley.
No, I
ever.
can tell the difference between them because Scarlett
Ever.
Johansson doesn't move her face and Charlize Theron does. I'm just saying that it's possible that she could. Scarlett Johansson just kind of has that blank stare in most of her stuff. It's just, I don't know, like, what is that? Like, you're the most paid
I'm
actress.
sorry,
in Hollywood.
JoJo. I love you. I love you,
Guys,
Scarlett JoJo. Please don't blame me for her innocent.
I'm so sorry, chat. I'm so sorry, chat. I have to apologize to you. We came so far. We dropped so low. It just went downhill. I
Channel
apologize.
did say that they would like to see it if it's done well.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
I agree with
Do
that.
you really think it's going to be done well, though?
Right.
No, exactly.
I think
Come
it's
on.
possible. I mean, it's unlikely, but I'm always willing to give something a pirated chance, you know? Or we don't, you know, condone pirating here on
So
Ladies
I'm
of the
gonna
Round
go back to my original thought process, ladies. You let me get a little bit of edgewise in here. I know I love you all, but Shriv's got to talk now. I'm putting the hammer down. See the Thor hammer back there? It's coming. All right, so I have to say this could be bad, really bad.
Yeah.
Or it could be done okay. I'm not going to say good because it's never going to be good when you talk about
It could be all right.
It could be all right. Yeah, it could be another
Ball Z movie.
It could be another Ronin 47. You know, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu
Gone.
Reeves is partly Asian, though.
Yeah.
He is partly Asian, but I really think that there's an issue with casting Scarlett Johansson in this role, and she plays a character that is of Japanese descent. So I don't know how that's supposed to fly off the cuff too, because Ghost in the Shell, guys,
being, like, ginger.
Ghost in the Shell is a cult following anime.
It's one of the most acclaimed animes.
Yes.
Right.
I cannot go to any forum without seeing, like, what's your favorite anime? I cannot go and not
Top
see
10.
at least 100 people.
And that's why our chat is ripping it off right now. That you got to keep up, Kim, because they're going to start typing those paragraphs.
Oh, I know. They are all ready. They are ready to
Francesca,
throw down.
do you know about the Ghost in the Shell? Are you familiar with this particular anime?
I have been following it. Yes, and I think it's unfortunate, and it's the same issues that we're sort of circling around here. It's unfortunate that they can't find an actress to really portray and give credit to the character and everything it's supposed to represent for the fans to be true to the writing, and I just think it's a problem.
A lot of Japanese content takes place in America and has American characters, though. So I think that a lot of people also see anime and they just assume that things are meant to be placed in Japan. And a lot of these things are American influenced, particularly in, like, New York. You know, look at Resident Evil. Resident Evil doesn't take place in Japan. That's supposed to be based in an American setting.
But what we're talking about Ghost in the Shell.
Right.
No, but I'm just saying people often misrepresent that. And, you know, that's not necessarily the case. You know, and I'm not, you know, not just for Ghost in the Shell, but in general, when people approach an anime or a video game, I hear all the time, well, why isn't this person Asian?
That's because
and
people
sometimes it's because
like
the character is not
assholes,
Asian.
Paige. We all have something to say about it.
I think part of the thing too is, you know, as much as like we talk about things, people get upset whenever anyone is typecasted. It's a fact. Like, you know, some people are okay with it, understanding that like this character is based on a book or a manga or an anime, and this person is supposed to be Asian. So we then hire someone of Asian descent. And some people are okay with that. Some people are like, well, why couldn't you just put this person in? And so I think it's going to be one of those things where if you're okay with typecasting, you're going to be wondering why it's not typecasted to some degree.
I'm upset in the opposite regard with, like, Aquaman in the live-action movies. Aquaman is supposed to be a blonde-haired, purple-eyed man who, you know, who leads
I'm not upset
because
I'm going to watch that.
I said first of all, Jason Momoa
not a
looks
man
like
at
the
all.
gamer more than he looks like Aquaman. And yeah, but you know what? He doesn't look like the character, and it's
He doesn't. But
Aquaman
I'm
in
okay. I will
particular.
pay my $14
It's
to go up and
important
watch
that
that
Aquaman looks like
shirtless.
his character.
I really
he
enjoy
has physical features that are
Yeah,
important
but
to
my
his
issue
character.
is like Jason Momoa, Khal Drogo.
I'm gonna go
I don't even
objectify
think
Jason Momoa. I'm gonna go objectify
in
him. That's
general.
what I'm gonna go do.
I'm out on this convo.
People, you
Kim's
know,
like,
when
I'm done.
people,
I don't even know what
think
you're talking about.
if you want characters to be true to who they're supposed to be in visual mediums, that needs to be across the board. You know, we can't be okay with, you know, people reverse whitewashing by making somebody ethnic and trying to put them off as probably even an off character, especially when their appearance is so important, and then get mad when we do the opposite. You know,
it's brought us back down to, or she's like, slap us down. No more objectifying Pixie. We can't do it.
No, I mean, I don't find him attractive, but you know,
I find him
can
very
objectify all you
attractive.
want. I think he looks cockeyed. I think his has one
I put
eye
a bag
that goes
on
this
his
way a
head.
little.
It's okay. I wasn't looking it up there. I was looking at all this.
Okay.
It's back to that
Jim
same thing.
Carmen.
The one thing I will say is that I think for a lot of people, the reason why they feel like they can be hypocritical when it comes to typecasting is because in some cases, the best character for the part is someone who cannot be put into that role if there is typecasting.
I don't think that was the case with Aquaman. You can't find one blonde-haired, light-eyed man in Hollywood that's a better actor than Jason Momoa.
Chris Hemsworth would have been alright.
I don't buy it. like you know,
I
I'm
also
sorry.
accepted Chris Hemsworth.
Little Bleach.
You couldn't find one who was even remotely as popular. I mean, they could have cast Brad Pitt as an older Aquaman with the hook hand for all I care. You know, and he would have looked just like him. But you know,
Six is upset. Damn it!
I am.
Somebody tweet that. Brad Pitt with the hook hand.
I think they should have cast Matt Damon, and it would have been the best Ben and Matt flick ever. But they don't want to do stuff like that. They already have Ben Affleck. I'm surprised Matt Damon isn't showing up. But the things that they do with kind of whitewashing, you know, I don't like when it's okay that you do it to one race, but it's not. But it's not if you do it to another. I think that we should be respecting the material, and that's what the bottom line is. And I don't think that we should be making exceptions when it comes to something along those lines of a comic book.
Corporate America and films of America. She's not having
choose it. You're either gonna typecast or you're not. Make a decision.
Yeah,
One or the other, ladies and gents.
And they will.
Kimmy, what's your hot topic?
All right, so we started with some religious stuff. Now we're gonna move on to and then we moved on, you know, to a bunch of comics and all this, and Ghost in the Shell. We covered anime. Now we're gonna move on to video games. So Robert Morris University became the first college to offer scholarships for League of Legends play. This week, the University of Pikeville followed in line, and they're going to do the same thing. So basically what this is saying is they're going to start doing League of Legends as a varsity sport in these very, very small but schools. But I mean, it's good. It's a good change. You know, since esports has become a bigger thing, we've now got League of Legends on ESPN, and it's being pushed a little bit more, you know, than it was previously. I mean, these kids can get full rides to these schools. And, you know, they have scholarships and they adhere to the same sort of standards that any other sport would. Any other varsity sport, like football and all that. They have to make good grades. They have to do what they can. You know, I think this is great. Do you think that big schools, say, for instance, you know, I go to Texas State. It's not as big, but the University of Texas is our neighbor, you know? Do you think that big schools will start to implement this too once it sees, you know, oh, these little schools are doing it, you know, it's starting to take off. Maybe we should do it too. Maybe we should offer that to our students. Do you think that that'll happen? And also, do you think that if we put esports in colleges, will it really attack the negative stigma that we have against gaming, you know?
I think that, do they give like chess scholarships to places?
Yes.
That are, you know, like they do?
Bowling
colleges?
and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never heard of chess though. I was just wondering because it's tactical and it's it's like a board game. It's like it is a board game. I think that I know, right? I think that's interesting that they're doing that, and I think that schools should be able to provide funding for whatever is going to get them to get people into school for free. College is so important nowadays, especially if you need to go into the jobs that we are lacking here in America. You definitely need to go into college. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's going to enhance the stigma or hurt it, though, the same way that it hasn't for chess, or for board games. It's just, I think that people are making a big deal out of it because it's the first of its kind, but I don't know if it's going to catch on. I hope it does.
It's not even the first of its kind.
Yeah. It's not for video games?
No, China.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I mean in America.
In the American
right.
culture,
Yeah, in America,
this
this
is
is
a huge
first.
step forward. I mean,
other than high schools started doing esports teams.
Mm-hmm.
But more
Yeah.
people watched the League of Legends finale, or the finale than they did the national basketball finals.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
I told Macy that.
Yeah.
As being a Spurs fan, I told Macy, I was like, did you know more people watch League of Legends than the Spurs game?
There's a good comment in the chat that the scholarships that they're calling scholarships for esports are esports scholarships, but when you talk about chess or an academic, they're not calling it a sport.
Right.
So again.
Yeah, that's true,
yeah,
too.
it kind of
That's
falls
what I
back
was
into that.
wondering. I've never even heard of somebody going to a college on a chess scholarship, but I don't know anybody that would. But I was just curious because of the
scholarship.
Yeah. But yeah, I do know that they go on bowling and golf and things that are kind of lighter on the physical end. But people don't respect as a whole in older generations. The
Francesca,
time and the practice that goes into gaming.
Well, as a university professor, I think any way you can tie a student to a school, and scholarships do that, you're engaging the student, you're creating community, and you're giving them opportunity, and they're going to do better. They're going to score better because they're more invested. So from a teacher perspective, I think it's cool, and I think it does go a long way to legitimize, if I can even use that word, the gamers and the gaming industry, and maybe it'll allow these kids that are gamers to get into technology and coding. It's another avenue that they couldn't. So for those reasons, I think it's pretty cool.
I think that.
So I think it's actually really positive. I don't think it's going to get rid of a negative stigma, but I do think it's going to help with the government. And here is why. I think you're going to be able to reveal that gamers are not crazy, that we're not, gun-toting machines, and we're not gonna run in somewhere and play shoot 'em up.
And we're not in our mama's basement.
That's not what we do. That we're not in our mama's basement. That we're not stupid. That not all of us are unattractive. that we can actually go out into the real world and we can do real things because, and I quote this all the time. TED Talks did one on how gamers are the future of the world. Biggest problem solvers ever. We face problems in games all the time, and they're unsolvable, and we magically solve them. And so I think it's showing not only that gamers are smart and intelligent people, but it's also showing that we're social in a way that other people to some degree aren't. I live online. All my friends are online. I don't really have super real life. Sorry, I don't. Somebody told me to get one and I wasn't sure where to buy it. I don't have a super real life. All of my friends are online. This is how I connect with people. This is how my life works. And this is what I understand and what I know and what I really get into. And so I think for a lot of people, this is going to show that we're not antisocial, that we're not psychopaths, that games don't really cause problems, that people with problems cause problems. Because, they always want to blame video games for, school shootings and stuff, and that's not the fact, People with problems cause problems, just like guns don't kill people, people with guns kill people.
All right, I'm going to make a PSA right now. LORT Graphic Department, that's a t-shirt. Put it in the store. Get on it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Wait, I don't even know what I said that made shirt status. This is what happens when I ramble.
People with problems. That's a T-shirt for us gamers because Congress seems to think that everything is the root of all evil is video games. So that's a T-shirt. Let me tell you. I'll give you my viewpoint on this. I'm pretty stoked because as a parent, I have the distinct, I won't say pleasure because sometimes it's not, of raising a teenage girl. And there are times where she wants to be on the Xbox all day long and not study. There are times when I have to make an executive decision on when she should be playing games and when she should not, even though I myself am a gamer and I negate some of that time for myself when I'm supposed to be doing adult things and I'm not, so I'm not setting a good example. But if she should decide that she wants to be a professional esports player, I can lay the foundation and set her free to go ahead and use that as a tool for her generation. And when Pixie says she lives her life online, that is something that I am totally not familiar with. I have to get used to. And as being Pixie's older sister, not her mama, sometimes we get into a debate because I just know nothing of this total inclusive online life because that's not something I was raised in. And this is a generation that my child is coming into. Right. So I have to look at it entirely differently and not as a separate thing, but as something that is now normal. So there is this whole new generation of kids coming behind us that we have to allow them to express themselves in this way and or be able to say, this works for me. It's not crazy. It's not abnormal. It's not something that is going to harm anyone. And if I'm good at it, let them shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and it's not such a huge generation gap either. I have a coworker. I had this conversation with her last week. She's in her early 30s, and she just does not. She can't understand. She's like, I would rather go out and physically talk to people. I just don't understand why you want to talk to people online. I'm like, it's a total generational thing. I mean, we were raised in it, and every generation after mine is going to be raised in it. It's such an inclusive part of who we are, Yeah,
I totally agree. I mean, I can't say that. I mean, when I was taking computer classes back in the day, you guys talk about coding. We had DOS prompt, all right? We said it before. We had DOS prompt, and then we had that Oregon Trail that was like the first game ever. And we've come such a long way from that. And yet we still have problems with the technology we've been given. So we always ask you guys every freaking week, and when we talk about our journalistic responsibility and being online, to be sensitive to what other people's feelings are. Right. Just because you have freedom of speech or just because you have a Twitter account does not negate you bashing someone because they don't agree with you or you don't agree with them. Mm-hmm. So, LORT Nation, rock on. You guys are awesome out there debating and sharing things and expressing yourself in a way that's positive. We appreciate you, and we thank you guys for coming in this chat today. We're moving on to features.
The chat's on fire today too.
Chat's on fire.
Yeah,
it's a great chat.
Kim needs support from Pixie. She needs
man.
support heels, man.
There's much love for Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. There's always love for Oregon Trail.
I mean, who doesn't like Oregon Trail?
And basically,
I mean, that's just a good time.
Oh, man.
It's not an Oregon Trail party unless at least 2 people have dysentery and you lose all of your food fording your fucking wagon.
Who's coming to the party?
We need to have we need to get that dang game, because you can get on emulator, and we need to play it on live stream. Somebody on the stream team, please do that, man. Come on.
I am not doing it. It's just not happening.
All right, so we're rolling into features. Who's first? Paige first?
Because I am the moderator.
Francesca, I hope you had nothing else to do this evening because
this
we're holding
is
you
awesome.
ransom.
This is great.
Francesca, you schooled me on something today, Francesca, and it wasn't microbiology. So,
and Pixie, please help Kim keep up with the chat, and thank you for that follow.
I can't get Twitch to load.
Channel. Yeah.
We have,
happy birthday, Channel. Channel just turned 19 today.
Oh, happy
Wow.
birthday!
Happy,
Birthday.
happy.
You know what, Channel?
Ended it with
I
us.
think Shrimpbot's got to give you some cred for that
Cred!
birthday. Woo!
Wow.
She don't give it away often, let me tell you. She's a prude.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Oh,
my first
man.
article, it's a little old at this point, but it's still interesting. There is a
Twitch.
Please Twitch. That's oxymoron.
and
Please Twitch. It's like Twitter, please. I don't think so. It's not gonna happen. Go ahead, Six. Sorry.
there's an illustrator who, unfunnily, if that's a word, not a word, made it up, was arrested on domestic violence charges, and he worked on this now popular comic. Came out in 2013. Actually, I believe I actually read it when it first came out, called Rat Queens, and it's with Image Comics. No, I haven't really followed it. I kind of felt like it was edgy for the sake of being edgy, but people really like it, and it has an all-woman cast, and there are these cool, kick-ass kind of woodland crazy warriors, and
Woodland.
and
Okay.
yeah, like they're like in the forest, and
Tree hugging peeps.
he has a replacement artist now, and the replacement artist is going to be starting at the end of February with his first comic, and his name is Sedgwick, I believe. It's he has a foreign name. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it.
And we're sorry for butchering it.
I apologize if I did. And he's acclaimed for his work on Top Cow and titles like Witchblade and Aphrodite and The Ninth. And he's got a lot of buzz generated that he's coming onto this comic. Rat Queens is a beautiful comic. It's very pretty. It's very stylized. And to see that people are excited with the replacement is great news for it. It might even become even more popular than it already is. So
are you going to be reviewing this on our website, maybe?
If the writing was a little better, I'll check it out.
All right. Stay tuned. You'll at least give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
The preview for it was really good. I really liked the preview. And then I bought the first comic.
Jen.
And all of
boobs
the
everywhere.
Kim's on it.
all of the
I was drawn to that comment.
All the boobs. All of the good parts of that comic were in the preview. And I thought the other parts were kind of boring, but I gave it a chance. I bought like 3 more issues and I never followed up with it.
Oh.
And I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't give somebody who was like beating his wife money all that time. I don't know. But people, are really happy and they're not leaving the comic even despite the controversy, which is really cool. They're excited for who they're bringing on.
Yeah.
All right, you guys heard it first. Six has got her eye on it.
Yeah. I'll do it for you, Carmen.
All right. Do it for me. Because I can't read everything. I got to rely on Six.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm going to give it if you give me a thumbs up, then maybe I'll pick it up, take a look. But other than that, I'll wait.
It is an all-girl cast, and it's
that
definitely
doesn't make
unique.
it great.
But it's definitely unique in the way that it's written. It's very brash.
Well then I might like that.
Brash?
You might really like it actually. I thought that it was like trying too hard to be edgy.
Oh, see now that's different.
When I read it, but people don't. But people don't.
I mean, come on.
People don't agree with me on that, so
All right, so
if people like it, maybe you will. Yeah.
Francesca, what do you think? You gonna pick it up maybe?
I'm gonna pick it up because Six says it's interesting. She's on the fence, so yeah.
I'll probably get the first couple issues for like 99 cents each on the Comixology if you want to look them up. They're pretty old now, so they're probably very cheap to pick up the older ones.
All right, I'll check it out.
And our next hot topic comes to us from, I believe, Pixie.
Okay.
Yes.
So, before I start this is going to be like playing a little bit of Connect 4 with my thoughts. So, bear with me. That's a great description.
One moment. If you have to go to the restroom, you got to smoke a cigarette, do it now. You'll be here when you get back.
This is going to be a little bit weird and a little bit rough. Okay. So, a study has come out and it
reveals something kind of interesting. It reveals some very vintage thought processes and preferences within women, in that women want men to be the breadwinners for the household based on a study. And the study was conducted by Dr. Catherine Tinsley. She's the lead author for the study. And so it's really interesting because women do, in fact, account for 52% of all workers in management, professional and related occupations, slightly higher than their total 47% share of actually being employed. And the interesting thing about this is I'm going to relate this to gaming, and it's going to take me a second to do so please bear with me. So Kieran Strawn, I don't know if you guys know who that is, but she did a video rebutting a lot of things that were shown in the feminist frequency videos. In particular, there was a video of 25 men's privilege things that surround gaming, and that men are not harassed. She rebuts this obviously using the principle of swatting. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's essentially where you call in terroristic threats against someone or say that they've called in a terroristic threat, and you have like their house stormed or their business stormed. Most of the cases of this do in fact occur against men when it comes to harassment online. So here's the interesting thing. Does gender and do gender roles actually play an effect in gaming, and in particular in video game design? My personal opinion is that it does. Based on evolutionary biology and psychology, it's a proven fact that, like, back in the day, women needed men to take care of them based on physical differences in their bodies, in their muscles, their skeletons, and even in the chemistry of their brains. So I think that does in fact play a role in gaming, and I think that's why a lot of women are put into the roles of being like the damsel in distress. And why you see a lot of male heroes and not quite so many female heroines. And I just thought this was really interesting. It, like I said, it all really ties together, but it's kind of like wonky, because my thought process is kind of weird. But I thought it was really interesting to see not only in normal life that vintage gender roles do still apply, but you can also see that carry over into the gaming community as a whole. What do you guys think?
Let's go with Francesca first.
That's a tough one for me as an empowered woman to sort of wrap my arms around. I just fall back on, people are free to choose what they want, and I hate generalities. I think yes, certainly evolutionarily back in the day there were gender roles for specific reasons, but I don't think that's the case anymore. So I have a hard time buying into that one. Sorry.
I think that's interesting that we need to take into consideration which women are they surveying.
Mm-hmm.
There was a survey about a year or two ago that was saying that women in general no longer want to have families. And they were surveying only women in high power employment and who were the breadwinners. And those women generally did not have families on the mind. But when you accounted for all women or a larger scale of women, they found that that wasn't true. So a lot of this data is often very skewed to get people to click on it and to get funding, more so than it is to give an accurate representation of what's actually going on. Does that apply to gaming? I do think that there are mechanics in gaming that are geared towards women and men, but I don't agree with the reasoning. I think that that is antiquated thinking, and I think that it is sexist. And I think that we are no longer in the times where our skeletons and our muscle mass are really segregating us. We were in the times of fantasy and fantastic, exploration, and that that definitely needs to be accounted for, and there's no real excuse for why there can't be, better represented demographics for women who do feel a certain way or who do want to be represented in a different way than has traditionally been presented to us. And there's no reason for people to say, oh, well, back in the day, the men used to carry the women on their backs along with the firewood, and say that that's the reason now that, you can't be an international spy and have a child in a comic book. It's just, it doesn't.
I'm gonna roll over to Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
All right, so Nerdy Sean has some good things to say. He's definitely more on Pixie's side with this. He said, yes, you rarely ever find a bad woman. Oh, a bad A woman. Ooh. In games without having her huge knockers and massive butt. Which I would have to agree on that too. And then I think,
but that's changing too.
Yeah, that is.
That's definitely part of the evolution. I mean, not for anything, but
not changing fast enough.
I was playing Resident Evil 6 with my boyfriend, and I was looking at Leon.
I don't think that's something that has to change, though. Honestly, I think due to aesthetics, like some people, if you're marketing games based on aesthetics, some people are going to be into that, and that's just fine.
Nobody's eradicating it.
It's fine.
Raffle time.
That it shouldn't be everything one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely what needs to be changed.
There has to be
people have a very linear, tunnel vision way of how they want their media to be represented. It normally mirrors, ironically, exactly what they want in life.
Right.
Go figure.
So Kim, what's your opinion on this? Because I know you just read the comments in chat, but I didn't hear from you. Being a mass comm major, it's kind of interesting to hear what you have to say.
I feel that I have some very, very progressive professors at Texas State. I do. Almost every professor I've had, and Macy has had them as well, always say, push for the change. Let's do something about it, And we talked about, and kind of the gender roles. It's not necessarily for me the way I see it. It's more of it's the sex sells thing. I mean, like we said, it's aesthetically pleasing, and a lot of my professors are saying, let's not see women and men as just sexual objects, because it's true, it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are men that, you got to be buff and you got to be ripped and you got to have nice hair and nice teeth and nice face, all that stuff too. But we overlook that.
But then we give Paul Giamatti a leading role in whatever movie, and he doesn't have all those things, but he's a great actor and we love to watch him. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have those roles. I'm just saying, if we look at, I was watching Harry Potter the other day.
Again. Oh man.
We were watching how they gave Neville fake teeth to make him ugly, but for some reason Hermione's hair isn't, her eyebrows are plucked and her hair isn't frizzy anymore.
Hey, that's my tween life right there, man. Come on.
But I'm saying
flashbacks.
Hermione was very homely in the books.
Yeah.
And they made sure that Neville was dorky looking, but they didn't want their leading lady to look that way.
Right.
And it's definitely something that isn't hidden, and people can't deny that there's sexism on both ends, and there are definitely injustices that happen to men. I'm not taking it.
And we've always taken that stance here.
Because this guy happens to be attractive too. It's but they're not attractive in the ways that women generally are looking for an attractive man.
And you can tell in the class when we talked about it, it's not normally something that's talked about. We don't really think about it. And you could tell in the class all the women kind of were, scooting around in their seats, kind of thinking it happens to them too. We have to acknowledge it in order for it to change. But I mean, as far as gender roles and going back to, in the olden days type of thing, I don't think I see that in video games very much nowadays.
It's changed a lot.
And I mean, and even so, even with Tomb Raider, that's been around for a long time. I don't see her acting traditionally, you know what I mean?
But I mean,
yeah, but
I
then
think
again, when
of-
she pushes up off of a rock and she puts her legs up and does that long,
I mean, I think of things I think of things like Mario and Princess Peach, and how that's a continuous like male-female rescue situation, or in like Assassin's Creed, how
I
your
would have
job
to-
is to
I would
like
have to
run around and
interject in
chase the
that.
guy and save prostitutes, because they can't save themselves, and things like that. And I think that does speak to like a gender role.
Kim, what was your
I
rebuttal?
would have to interject on think of both of those because the new Assassin's Creed, I really like whatever her face is. I mean, I
I'm
can't even
talking
remember
Black
her
Flag.
name. No, not Black Flag. The newest one. Did that come out, or was it Rogue that came out at the same time
Rogue
as?
was for the 360, I believe.
Yeah.
And
So
then they had Unity for the Xbox One and for
Unity, I really enjoyed the Templar that was a woman. I think that she was portrayed in a correct way. For me at least, she appealed to me. And then also with Mario Brothers, I know it was in a spin-off series, like a spin-off type of thing. So maybe it should have been presented in a main canon type of thing. But in what is it? Super Paper Mario, the one for GameCube. You play as Princess Peach and you get out yourself.
Yeah,
I think we got some questions in chat. I think we need to catch up with chat real quick.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. There should be a bigger thing, but we can't say like, oh, it's only this, because it isn't.
No,
I'm
it's
looking
not.
for the specific webcomic that is really funny. It's really on point for what we're talking about. And what somebody brought up in chat were like, oh, men look a certain way too, and we objectify them. And it was
Oh yeah.
It's a big guy and a girl, and the guy's like, well, I'm not muscular and I don't mind, and she's like, yeah, but if I was gonna draw a guy that I'm attracted to, he'd have big eyes and he'd be slimmer and he'd have pouty lips. And she shows it to the guy in the comic. He goes, oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. It's like, it's interesting. I wish I could find it. It's a funny one.
So
But-
let's go to chat and see what people have got to say.
They have a lot to say about this.
Oh, there's some talk about Lara Croft. Throckmorton said, I still remember the Fatterall when they gave Lara Croft a breast reduction. And then Nimpod had to say back to that, Lara Croft looks better with a smaller bust. So I mean, we're still looking at it that way, but I mean, at least they're saying, yeah, it's fine still. She's still Lara
She's not
Croft.
triangular anymore.
We all noticed that. We all noticed that problem. We're like, wait.
She wasn't rocking the Madonna cone bra anymore.
Madonna bra. Madonna Croft.
We weren't offended because of the size. We were offended because they were shaped wrong. We're like, wait a minute, that's not right.
Personally, though, I've always felt empowered by Lara Croft, and I don't think that being sexy is disempowering. I definitely.
Agreed.
I don't find that with Lara Croft.
You can be sexy and be badass.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't. Yeah, exactly.
And
I don't
sexy is objectify. It's not being objectifying. It's interpreted by each of us differently. So therefore, if I say you look sexy in those glasses, Six, you look sexy in those glasses. It doesn't have to be about your boobs or your ass, because a lot of times that's what people assume that we're talking about. It could be as simple as you're wearing very nice shoes today, and they're not high heels, they're not kitten heels. They're something that's attractive for...
I found the webcomic if you want to put it in the chat.
Sorry.
Oh,
Arcade,
you're killing me.
Arcade's
I'm not a moderator.
got a good point too.
Go ahead.
I put it in.
They said
link for it.
something that I think makes it difficult for female game devs and designers, in addition to criticism and harassment from men, is the dismissal from women. It seems like the few times a chick has created their idea of a powerful character, female gamers tear her apart. And I see that too. I do. I mean,
think
it's also not the same thing where you make a character that is overtly sexualized and then go, oh, it's okay because a girl worked on it. It's like, no, that doesn't take away from how another girl interprets it because one girl said it's okay. You're allowed to be okay with something and disagree with somebody. And I think that's where the problem comes in. Is that people think that we have to be unanimous as women as to what we think is empowering or disempowering, and it's just not the case.
there's something to be said about us as women overall. And I can speak to this because I am one, guys, and you guys are going to listen to me for one quiet second. Because women, for some odd reason, we like at some point in our lives, whether it's because you were raised this way or someone did it to you or you've learned this behavior throughout your adolescence, you become insecure at some point and you decide that you're going to attack someone else for something else that is your problem.
Yeah.
So it happens way too much. So therefore, we need to be able to step outside of ourselves and say, I'm going to support you as another woman, as a woman trying to do something with yourself because I can, not because I want from you, not because I'm taking from myself and making myself higher up on a pedestal, but because I can support you as another fellow human being, let alone a girl with boobs. Come on. It's so easy. Pixie's got her hand up.
Part of the problem too is women objectify women just as much as men objectify women. There have been magazines that have tried to run plus size models and women don't buy them.
Yeah.
Because that's not what women want to see for whatever reason. They do not sell well.
Because
and so they go back to using the models who look emaciated where you can see their ribs, and we allow this to continue. We promote this with what we do and what we buy.
Well, and also,
Francesca, let me ask you, because you see this, you're in an environment where you see a lot of women come your way, come and go, coming through, and I'm sure you hear a lot of opinions and a lot of talking. You know, let's get your opinion on this.
I think it's just, I think what you said, Carmen, about we see our insecurities in others is so true. So I think we have to learn how to empower ourselves and still, like, love ourselves. So, you know, you're a little overweight or you have zits or whatever your issue is, you know, that's just, it's really hard for me. Sometimes I wonder how hard it must be for little girls to grow up today with all that they're exposed to, and it makes me so sad because it's just okay to be different. It's okay to love yourself, and you can't teach somebody that, you know.
Self-worth is learned at home too. It's given to you by people who you love.
Yeah, I mean, some people's problems begin right at home. Their self-esteem and their self-image problems begin right at home. I mean, it goes back to parenting as well.
That's why we've created a place where, knowing that people in our community are either very young, 15, you know, 15 through 20 something, or the rest of us adults out here, like myself, you guys on the panel, that have gone through all of this and been somewhere along your lives where you're still in it now, where you feel like something's wrong with you. Where do I fit in? Why can't I find a place that will accept me for just who I am? That's what we've done. We've created this place to say, come on in. You like the same things we like. Geek out. Have a good time. We're cutting up in here. We're joking around. We got some great things going on, but we all love it because you're all sitting in here, and there's no judgment. Judgment-free zone, guys. So, I mean, you don't see us agreeing on everything. Not at all, obviously. But we've talked about it, and we've had a great conversation, and we haven't even slightly torn each other down, because believe me, we will have a debate on here one of these days, and you hopefully will come back and catch it, where Pixie and I will go at it. Paige and Six will, Paige and Kim will go at it, and we will not
Paige
agree.
and herself?
I mean, Paige and herself, yeah. Some days we won't agree. There won't be a middle person to debate it. We'll just say, no, I'm just not with you on that one, and it's okay. It's okay not to like the same things.
Also, I think another symptom of the problem is everyone quotes the statistic about, like, women making up 50% of the gaming population, but what we don't know is what games are these people actually playing? Are they playing AAA titles?
It's not.
Or are they playing
doesn't matter.
Farm?
It doesn't matter.
Or like the thing that does matter though. It does matter though, because everything you have is going to be marketed towards a specific group.
However,
it is a fact.
Women are buying more than half. They are purchasing more than half of the core games.
But are they playing it themselves?
But it's interesting because, like, I have an ex who buys a bunch of games and they sit on his shelf for decades, never opens them, unopened. He has unopened PS1 games. Not because he collects them, because he just never plays them. You know? So there are people who are getting what these companies care about, what the companies care about is who is purchasing the games. Who are they getting to open up their wallets? And that is why a lot of these statistics are very skewed as well, because the attention for the creators who are going to be funding these games, not the developers who are going to be making them for people to enjoy, the people who are going to be giving the money to developers for them to be made, they don't care who plays the game, they care who buys the game. And that's something that needs to be distinguished when you're talking about these statistics
I need
too.
statistical evidence on women buying board games.
The same study.
I can
that
tell
came
you
up
what the
with
statistics
50%
are.
50% of women. No, the same study that came up with 50% of women are playing games, and they included mobile gaming within it, and they differentiated between core gaming and non-core gaming. Core gaming is an RPG. Core gaming is a shooter. Core gaming. They had specific genres of what made a core game within it. I can get you the statistic when I could find it on the computer. I'll put it in the chat. And that's where all those articles about 50% of gaming came out of. It came from that study. And that study did specify within it that they are including games like mobile gaming. But you also have to understand Plants vs. Zombies, puzzle games like Tetris are not included in core gaming as well. So somebody who's playing, I don't know,
Farmville.
Rage, or they're playing some MOBA on their phone, they're considered a core gamer, but somebody who's playing Tetris on their Xbox, it's not. So it's also interesting how they broke up that data. And men were making up a lot more of the core gaming market, and men were making up more of the market of people who were spending more than 5 hours a week on video games.
And I think men will continue to make up a core part of a bigger percentage of that market for a couple more years. But I think
it's changing.
Again, it is changing. And like you said, that the people who buy the games are primarily women, because you think about it this way. When you think about who's making household decisions, who is telling the child what they can and cannot play, it's the mom or the woman in the person that's in the gender role of the mom. If you're talking about who's deciding where the budget will be spent for the extra money you have in the household, it's the mom. Who's taking the kids to the store to allow them to get that game and say that you can bring that home? It's the mom. And we make those decisions every day when it comes to other things like food and consumer goods. It's the mom. It's just a fact. Go ahead, Pixie.
My point was, though, and it still stands, that regardless of who is buying the games, it's the people who are playing it that are going to determine an outcome for it.
An outcome in what way?
Here's why.
Not for what's going to get made, though.
I think in a lot of cases, yeah. Because a woman can in fact pay for a Call of Duty subscription, like Xbox Gold membership online, all they want. But if they're not playing it, they're not giving the money. Like, they're not the ones who are driving that game to success.
How can you say
the person
not
playing
giving
it
money
that
when
is
they
doing
pay?
so.
Maybe.
And I
But if
think
they're
that's the
purchasing
thing,
it, then yeah.
too, is that you have to remember, while women are buying these are still being played primarily by men when you think of AAA titles. And as such, they're still going to be marketed for men. It's just a fact.
But
we're not disputing that it's a fact that they will be marketed for men.
So my question is really, and this is where I think I differ from pretty much everybody here, how much change really needs to be made until the market demographic really shifts?
That's an oxymoron question. We don't know how much change can be made because there isn't being enough right now.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't. The thing is that if you have a bunch of people saying, "Hey, we want games that we're not being ostracized in. We want more games like this," because there are playing games, but you also have to think there's not a lot of games that don't fit into that that category for people who are not comfortable there to play them. I mean, you don't. But apparently
I understand that other people do, but I don't. I don't
and
see
you
it.
have plenty of games to pull from. So you can play 5 hours of games a day and play a new game every other month. But somebody who doesn't like those categories, or doesn't like something sexualized, or likes a certain stylization, or likes a certain kind of RPG, maybe they don't like turn-based and they like action RPGs, and maybe they like over-the-shoulder instead of a top view, or they have a bunch of preferences, or maybe they need it on it's not made for that platform and they don't know how to hack it and make it so. You know, there's lots of reasons why there are certain people who don't play as much games as other people, and you can't just dismiss that. It's just not fair.
And
it's the same thing when somebody
part of the reason that there are some women who don't play video games is because there is sexism. But I think some of it too is just some women don't like those games. Like, I think sometimes that's just how it is.
But that's
I think that there's always going to
that
be a
doesn't
majority
mean that game
skew.
needs to change.
But to think that a demographic based off of gender isn't going to like an interactive media that takes elements of storytelling, of movies, of playing games like they did as a child, like women grow out of childhood but men don't. It's completely backwards.
No, it is.
To think that they can't enjoy that, or that there's different kinds of movies for men and for women. Women will predominantly go to one kind of movie, men will predominantly go to another, and then there's movies that everybody likes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't have that in gaming, you're not going to have those numbers.
I think that's the thing that people don't see about games is, there's a lot of complaints over AAA titles, objectifying women, and a lot of the player base isn't female. And so I don't necessarily see a change, because if the player base isn't female, there are reasons why women aren't playing that game. They don't like it. It's not marketed correctly for them, etc., etc. So why not create games that women do like instead of worrying about changing? But I feel like in a lot of cases that's not the point that's being made. I feel like in a lot of cases the point is being made that all AAA titles are sexist towards women.
Well, anybody who's saying that
is a huge proponent of that.
But people who are saying that aren't part of the community. There are people in special interest groups who will say anything to continue to get attention and funding. You're looking at that from, a very manipulative perspective, and I understand why, and I do have a problem with that as well.
And with that point, we're rolling into chat.
Yeah,
ladies.
sorry, we're going way too long.
Ding,
here.
ding, ding, ding. Get it, Kimmy.
And we've got people on both sides. Arcade said, regardless of the ratio of male to female gamers, there's a distinct lack of games geared towards females. I had an impossible time trying to buy my little sister a game that she could enjoy this Christmas, and that makes me sad. Yeah. And then Nerdy Sean said, in a lot of things it just boils down to basic economics. You sell what the majority is and what it wants. And,
and
a lot of that is
saying what they want, and you're not making it. You have a right to say, well, screw you, I'm not going to buy the crap that you're making that's not for me. And that's okay. Yeah, I don't understand where people get upset that people don't like certain things, or that people like certain things that they don't like. I always have a disconnect with people where they say, oh, well, I like it this way and I don't want it to change. So, well, everything's going to change, especially when something that was once a niche market becomes a huge popular culture market.
And you know what's changed? I'm going to tell you what's changed, because I'm going to segue to myself. TV, guys, TV. Because guess what I just watched today, because I didn't get a chance to catch it when it came on? The new Agent Carter. Anybody watch it other than me?
I watched it.
All right, good. You ladies watched it. You two over there, lamos, you got to catch up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Agent Carter and why I think the show is middle of the road for me. I'm very excited about the fact that, yay, Agent Carter is coming to TV, because I think that she is a great heroine. She's got some good things going on. I think that I'm excited about having TV that I can watch with my kid and watch it together and be able to watch it and not worry about what's going on and what I have to have a conversation about that I'm not ready for. Because there's not much primetime TV that is actually allows me to do that. But I also have to say that I don't think this show is going to keep her attention from what I've seen thus far as being a teenager. I like it, but it's not like, I mean, she watches reruns of House. She still watches, Kim, what were we talking about the other day? She's watching that, would you ask me today, what do I watch?
Once Upon a Time?
Once Upon a Time. That's keeping her attention. But I don't know if Agent Carter's gonna do it for. I mean, Pixie, you didn't watch it? No, it's a negative. Are you gonna watch it? No, it's a negative.
I didn't watch it either, and to be completely honest, I'm not a fan of that whole world in general. That whole
yeah, I don't. My boyfriend watches them. I don't like them.
That's
Honestly,
Macy's
I'm
field, not
so
me.
tired of Marvel. I can't even like.
Yeah. I'm with you. I felt like I had to watch it just because it was Agent Carter. But to your point, Carmen, I felt the plot was real slow and plotting. Like, why does it have to be 8 episodes or however long? Like, not a lot happened in those 2 episodes. So maybe it was just bad writing from my perspective. But I mean, it was. I had hopes for it. We'll see.
I only like Constantine. That's the only comic
love
show
that
I
show.
like. All the other comic
I
shows
was surprised at how good it was.
I think that all the other comic shows, all of them are terrible. I think that the Flash is maybe gonna be okay once upon a time. I don't like Green Arrow.
Nope.
I don't
I
like
never
any
got
of
into
the
Arrow,
Marvel
never
ones.
got into the Flash. Like I just
Are you just looking at the abs, girls? What? Come on.
Did anybody